Hey, everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is the first episode of That Scale RC Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Kendall, along here with.
Adam Dean.
And yeah, this is our first time out with this, and we have kind of the show is broken into some segments and whatnot. But very first thing, I think we'll give you guys a little bit of background information on the two of us and why we are doing this. So, Adam, let me start with you here. Who are you, and how are you involved in this hobby?
Well, I am Adam Dean. I am involved with Two Chain Scalers, which is a group consisted of myself and Elio Deanda. We kind of just act like goofballs. We're at events here in Northern California. We also try to get super scale builds. And I have like a side shoot project, I guess you could say, which would be Dean Designs Concepts, which is basically a just a showcase of all the builds I've done over the years. So that's who I am and where you can find me in the hobby.
Okay, how long have you been involved in Scale RC?
Scale RC, I bought my first scaler in 2009, but I didn't start getting heavy into it till about 2011. So so my math is horrible right now. So I want to say that's like 7 or 8 years.
It's a while. It's probably more than most, actually, so that's good. All right, now for the big controversial questions here. The never-ending battle, only matched by Ford versus Chevy. So, what what do you prefer, brushed or brushless?
That's actually a good one for me because if you would have asked that about 2 months ago, I would have just said brushed because that's all I've really run. But now that I've dabbled into brushless, I think they both have their place. But I'd definitely still say I'm more of a brushed guy just because of the type of scaling I like to do, or trailing, I guess you could say.
Hmm.
But the brushless is nice because I have that in my black JK, and it has enough power to get out of something, and you can still have fun with it. But I have it geared so low that if you barely crawl, it'll still crawl just like a brush motor. So, but
Nice, perfect. Okay, so how about Lexan versus Hardbody? What do you prefer?
I've had my fair share of both. I like my Lexan bodies for when you're trying to build something that you can still make scale and really cool, but you could take it down the trail. You're not worried about weight. You're not worried about really like if it rolls over. Um, but if you're trying to go super scale detail, I'd have to say hard body because the hard body you can actually like bondo. You can stretch the body a lot easier. You can shorten the body. You can do all kinds of things and actually still keep it looking like a real car, versus like Lexan, once you kind of cut something, all the lines are kind of vacuum formed into it. So once you cut past a certain thing, it's kind of gone forever. So, but if I needed to pick one or the other, I'd probably say Lexan.
Yeah, I totally understand that, especially for where we are up here. That's kind of the way to go. So tell me then, just to get to know you a little bit further here, what do you have playing on your iTunes playlist right now?
Currently, right now, I got an array of stuff, but I have my what I call my metal rock mix while I'm at work kind of thing going on, and it consists of bands like Memphis May Fire, some Slipknot. Who else is on there right now? Corn and stuff like that. Just that I have all that for when I'm at work. So any of those kind of bands slash genre you'd find on that playlist right now.
Right on. Favorite type of food?
Favorite type of food? I definitely would probably have to say Mexican because I could almost go for a burrito or street style tacos like any day of the week. So definitely would probably have to say Mexican.
Yeah, for sure. Dream vacation. Where would you go if you could?
Honestly, I'd like to go somewhere like I'm like a super mountain person. Like I love the mountains. So like even getting up to like where you are up in Washington, that'd be kind of cool. Or something like Aspen, Colorado, something with like some really cool mountainy environment that because I don't get that kind of stuff around here.
Nice.
So
Yeah, not a bad way to spend your time at all. And what's out of your current fleet that you have, or even like past rigs too? What which build do you consider to be your favorite that you have?
my favorite build right now, or whatever, would have to be my yellow Blazer, the one that I called Old Yeller. That one I had a lot of fun. It was my first time I ever really built like a full cage for a vehicle. I've never done that before, and it's just like a cool rig that it is a Lexan body, so it's not a hard body, but I spent a lot of time getting it the way I want it to be, and I think it's just like a cool rig you'd actually probably see on the trail. It's like a total trail Blazer buggy kind of thing, so that would have to be my favorite rig right now.
Nice. Yeah, I actually really like that one too. That one's awesome. All right, so my turn.
All right, your
Who
turn.
am I?
All
Who
right.
am I?
So who are you, and how are you involved in the hobby?
My name is Jeremy Kendall. Usually just go by my the first letter of my name, just initial J. That's how you normally find me on Facebook. I own SOR Graphics, and I've been in this hobby since I want to say 2015.
Oh, okay.
So
Lot,
not all that long,
shorter,
but
shorter than
I'm
I
getting there.
have.
Yeah, I'm still fairly new. My background's from racing and stuff, and I've had a couple of friends that pushed me to get into the crawler thing, and I thought, I don't know, it's slow, and me being racer guy, that's kind of always been my thing. So as it turns out, like most everything, once I gave it a chance, I actually did end up really liking it. So it's a good way to kind of unwind.
Nice. That's what we like to hear. That we want to see more people getting into this hobby. So, brushed or brushless?
Oh man, I like both, but due to usually like the amount of vehicles that we have here, to keep it economical and have all of these rigs actually work and not be just shelf queens, or display vehicles. I run brushed in most of them. Around here, a little bit of wheel speed is nice to have. I don't do a lot of high speed stuff or anything, so most of my systems are brushed. I will do a brushless build at some point here. One of my rigs, the King of the Hammers Jeep that we built, the 4500 class replica, that one's got a brushless system, but I really have like zero time with that thing, so really haven't had a chance to really give it a chance and see how it performs. So soon, I hope.
Yeah, sounds like we're kind of like in the same boat. We're both not brushless experienced crawlers. So, next question: hard body or Lexan body?
I am a Lexan guy. A lot of people say that to be scaled you need a hard body and whatnot, and that's true. There is a pretty unmatched level of detail that goes into the hard body rigs, but right now with everything that's available, 3D printing wise and whatnot, to say that Lexan isn't scale, I think is kind of a mistake nowadays. You can take a Lexan bodied rig. Just look at the stuff that James Knight does. You can make Lexan pretty darn scale. So it's
Oh
pretty
yeah,
close.
yeah. You
really.
definitely can make Lexan scale. We still get that every once in a while with the rig I was talking about, Old Yeller, and with the Black JK. There's been people asking, is that hard body or is that even a real rig?
Yeah, I've had that with some of them too, and I think the biggest thing for me though, the area that we spend time in, the lines and the areas that you crawl at, most of them carry a pretty severe consequence if you end up rolling and not making it. It's a lot of big, like big slab rocks and stuff. So if you have a hard body rig, first of all, the type of terrain we have, it doesn't perform quite as well as Lexan does. But the biggest thing is that if you do have a hard body rig, some of the falls that they take on the stuff that we drive on, they're gonna get destroyed. So that's something I guess I've never really been interested in spending my money on is a hard body because it's just gonna get absolutely hammered
Oh
here.
yeah.
So that's kind of my
Oh yeah, I hear
thinking
you on
behind
that one.
that.
So we'll get the last RC one out of the way, and then we'll go into the fun questions. What is your favorite rig in your fleet or your lineup?
Oh boy, that's always changing. Right now, I'm having a lot of fun with short wheelbase stuff. I'd have to say it's a tie right now between my HPI Venture and my associated CR12. The CR12's the Suzuki Samurai with some Proline 4.19 BFG mud terrains on it, and I've never owned a short wheelbase rig, and it's really been interesting and kind of surprising what all it's capable of. So it may not work the best out of them, but it adds a new dimension to driving that's really fun. So and sometimes it's cool to have something that doesn't just murder lines effortlessly or anything like that. It's cool to have something that might be a little difficult to drive and kind of work at it. And that's kind of the same reason I think that like 2.2 rigs have kind of really sort of died off around here. So it's the seems like the short wheelbase tiny tire thing is kind of taken the hobby by storm right now, and everybody's super into it. So it's been fun. I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah, and
with
if you
that
guys
little
haven't
build.
checked those out, you can find him on his Instagram and his Facebook. The Suzuki builds, it's bitchin'. So make sure to check that out.
Thanks. I think it's pretty
So
fun.
now we'll get into the fun questions. So what is currently on your playlist?
Oh boy. I'm kind of all over the place. I usually listen to a lot of heavy stuff. Like right now, I've got what's on there: High on Fire, I Prevail, and then some mellow stuff like Slaves and Emerosa. And I have to try and kind of mix it up. I'm fortunate enough to where I work from home, so I'm able to just kind of sit out here and listen to music all day. So that's kind of currently what's in my playlist. It's either heavy metal or some softer rock type stuff. So try to
Nice.
mix it up.
What is your favorite kind of food?
Man, I should have been born in Mexico because I love Mexican food. That is my absolute favorite. So yeah, like you, I'm all about it and can't get enough. So yeah,
Oh yeah.
I'll never say no to Mexican food.
And finally, where would your dream vacation be?
Oh gosh, you know what? I'd have to sit. I'm not one of those people that can just sit around on a beach. Like I have to be doing something all the time. So for me, it'd probably be like not necessarily Axial Fest, but that would work. But I would really like to take and spend like 4 or 5 days just camping at Cisco. Like that would be kind of my ideal vacation. Just hit some trails, hang out, barbecue, stuff like that. I like camping and stuff and being out on the trails. So that the 2 years that I went to Axial Fest, that was definitely like a dream vacation for me. So that's I don't know, something involved with the hobby. But no, just anything where I can be like active and doing stuff. I'm terrible at sitting around.
Yeah, I guess I could have mentioned that one too. I'm not a big sit around guy either. I don't really watch a lot of TV. So I can hear you. I can feel you in that one where you want to be out doing stuff. So camping's cool. That's kind of like why I picked a mountainy thing because like when you're in the mountains, there's a lot to do. You can go on hikes. You can get on the mountain bike. You could drive around. I mean, there's like camp. Sky's the limit.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
so well, with that finishing up, I guess to get our background and how you can get to know us kind of ordeal. I think that brings us into what's on the bench. So,
Yeah.
if you were looking at your bench right now, what is on your bench?
I'm just finished up. Actually, I've got window nuts to make for it still, but I just finished up the Yeti Junior Polaris Razor build. Samurai is almost done right now. That's the associated CR12. Um, that thing's probably been the most fun because it was just sort of not really planned. I just kind of figured out what I wanted to do with it by staring at it one day. Out of the box, it kind of almost has. I don't know. I didn't have great expectations for it. I don't know if it was the window stickers or what on it that made it look like it was kind of just barely above toy grade. So I didn't really know what to expect. Um, as it turns out, there's a lot of different bodies that you can get for it between like the Proline Sumo and then Tamiya makes some really cool bodies that fit the stock wheelbase CR12. But on mine, I was talking to John Schultz and he told me the trick to lengthen in the wheelbase. So I stretched the wheelbase of the CR12 to 10 inches and the Samurai body on, or Proline Sumo, which it's a Suzuki Samurai, just not licensed. That's on it, and then cut out the top of it and installed the Proline PLC interior in it. Made some bumpers for it, so it's kind of like my first like real class 1 build. Before, last year was the first time we had class 1, and I just kind of slapped some tires on one of the rigs that I had and used that. But this thing was actually like built with class 1 in mind, so that's it's been fun. It's been a really different project for me, and it's been a really good time. So I'm still searching out some scale add-ons. I'd like to find some rear view mirrors for it and some other little things, but for the most part it's just about there. After that, it is on to a truggy build. I've got a chassis from NWSD. It's Northwest Scalar Designs. Just a killer stainless laser cut comp chassis that you make your own truggy cage and weld that onto the back of it. So it's really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been kind of trying to pace myself lately with this stuff. I'm new to welding and making things out of metal. So like the very first thing I did was some bumpers, and once I figured that out, I did the cage for the Razor, which probably in hindsight I should have done something else first to kind of bust my chops on a little bit for kind of get a little experience before I dive into a cage. But all things considered, I'm really happy with it. So yeah, I've just been
Sweet.
trying to work on new metal stuff to add to my builds, and it's been fun. It's satisfying, when you make something like that instead of having somebody else do it for you or buying it. So that part of the hobby I'm really excited about, and I think I'm finally at the point now where I've got enough experience to where I'm pretty confident that I can do a decent job on that truggy build. So yeah, I mean, there's always something happening here, just because that's sort of the nature of the business that I'm in. Like I always have to have new stuff to show off and keep people interested in, but mostly just build something that inspires people to go out and make something different, and have it be a showcase to, for our products to show people, what all you can do. So I've always got something going on, but yeah, that's probably my lineup for the next couple months. How about you? What are you in the middle of at the moment?
Oh man, actually, I got a couple. It's actually sad. Some of my builds, I'm pretty bad when it comes with builds. A lot of times, I'll be in the middle of something and I'll see something, or somebody else will post up something and it'll give me an idea, or a company will release something, and then I go, "Oh, I need that," and then whatever I'm working on gets pushed to the back burner, and then I start on that, and then it takes me forever to get back to what I was originally on. But I have the black JK, which I nicknamed Fool's Gold, which is which used to be the Axial Cherokee kit. So I took a Axial 2012 JKU body, which is basically the predecessor of the new one, the CRC Jeep that just was released. A couple years ago, 2 years ago now.
Yeah, probably 2 years, I bet.
I think so. So it's basically the first Axial Jeep body, and I painted it black. It's got the gold roll cage, so it's got the black and gold. That's why I nicknamed it Fool's Gold, because none of it's real gold. It's all spray paint. And actually, I got your wrap sitting on the bench right now. That needs to go on that. And then I think that'll actually pretty much wrap up that build. That build's pretty much done. The other two builds I have on the back burner, one's like super back burner. It's been that way for a while. I took my new Kaiser apart, took all the stuff off of that build, and I was trying to build a replica truck of, I think he calls it the, I think it's like the Red 2500 or something like that, or Big Red or something. It was on Truck Night in America, and it's like a '05, like the Cat Eye Chevy truck, and it's just got like all
Oh,
different
cool.
yeah, it's got all different colored body panels. Like the majority of it's red, but he's got like a white quarter panel and a black hood, and you know, navy blue door. So it's like it's a total Frankenstein thing. But I liked the way the bed looked. I just thought it was really cool. So I was like, you know what, I need to build something like that. So that's sitting on a BPC Gen 8. I want to say it's whatever the latest one, not the or Gen 9, because I think he's on Gen 10 right now. It's the one that he came out with just before the one that BPC is releasing now, and it's actually my first build that I have. It's 3 linked in the front and it's leaf sprung in the rear. So I've never done a build.
Whoa.
I've never done a build with leaf springs, so that was kind of new to me. So that's why it's also taken so long, because there's a lot to learn with the whole leaf sprung setup, and that's why I kind of said, you know what, I'm gonna make this like that, because he's actually running 3 link in the front with leaf springs in the rear. I'd love to do a full leaf sprung build, but there's just so much you have to work into the geometry, because it's not
Oh
the
yeah.
same. It's not the same as setting up links. Like links, you can make longer links, shorter links, or longer rod ends, shorter rod ends, and you can play with the wheelbase. Leaf sprung, you got to have the axle where you want it, and then that's it. You put the leaf spring perches or the hangers in place right where that is, and I'm using, I think they're G-Made leaf spring kits. So they come with these metal hangers. So I'm just lazy. Instead of drilling and bolting them, I just welded them to the chassis, because it's a
That's cool.
stainless chassis. So I just welded them in place. So once they're there, they're there. So that's a build that is, like I said, has taken a long time, and a lot of that also had to do with the body. I really wanted that Cat Eye Chevy, and I couldn't find one. So actually, what happened was I found a Cat Eye Avalanche, and I sent it to my buddy Todd Norton, who's like way better at the hard body or I can't think of what it's actually made out of. Not Lexan.
Oh, like ABS.
Yeah, styrene. I was having
Okay.
a major brain fart. Styrene. So he's better with the styrene work, and so he actually chopped it at the at the start of the back door of the Avalanche, and then he made the back half of the cab from scratch. So it totally looks like an extended cab Cat Eye Chevy now.
That's awesome.
So it's pretty cool. It's just that's yeah. So that's on the far back burner. But once I get through a couple hurdles, that one's ready to go. And then the other one was the influence of our friend Elio Deanda. He's been knocking out the hard body JKs, and with my lady Michelle having a four-door JK, I'm like, these Jeeps are starting to like grow on me. It's almost like an infection. So I'm like, I have to do something. So I have a hard body JK, which is actually going to be my first motor forward build. I've never done that either. So I got two firsts on the bench in two different builds.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, so that'll be my first motor forward setup. And yeah, so that one's more just waiting for fab time. My whole thing is, after work, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna sit there and weld all night. So I kind of just go, I'm gonna unwind or hang out or whatever. So getting motivated to do all the welding, that's what kind of put that one on the back burner. But that one's pretty much there. I used a Knight Customs, the Stingray hood for the 2017 CRC Jeep. I actually grafted that into the hard body, since it's
Oh
also
wow.
a nylon. So that was pretty cool. And see, that's where I like the hard body stuff, because I was able to
Mm-hmm.
graft it in and then fill everything else in with Bondo, smooth it all out, and it looks like it was molded that way.
That's what's awesome
So
about the hard body stuff is you can
that's
do like full on, like bob a bed, and you can pinch the front and dove it, and like there's so many
Exactly.
things you can do. And
Well,
Lexan looks kind of hacked up when you try and do
what
it that way, but
what
I have seen some that turned out good.
well, that's what I was gonna say. I've only done one Lexan pinch, and that was on my OG Wraith. I used a Proline K5 Blazer body, and I kind of pinched it to mold the shape of the Wraith cage, and it actually, from like until you get like right up into it, from like a decent distance, like anywhere from like 6 inches and away, it looks pretty good. Once you get it like right up in your hands, you kind of look at it, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I can see the cut line, and I can see this, and I can see that. But otherwise, I think it looks halfway decent.
Yeah, that's
So,
awesome. Hey,
but yeah, I
back
mean,
to that first one you were talking about, real quick here before I forget. Have you tried flipping that kit trans yet?
no, I have not.
It works awesome. I'm working on a skid that'll allow it to be the whole trans motor to be rotated to drop the motor about another 3/4 of an inch, because it does sit fairly high with the kit trans, but man, you lose some battery space, because you have to either go with a different servo and battery mount, or you end up having to cut the stock one. But I was absolutely shocked at the difference it made. So flipping the kit trans is actually pretty cool if you're doing a build with one of those. I think out of what we have, I only have two with the kit trans, and one was
Yeah,
flipped.
yeah, that the Fool's Gold build, the Black JK, that is my only kit transmission. Every other one of them has the old fashioned AX10 style uh, transmission,
Which is still awesome and bomb proof. And actually,
which
it looks like the motor sits a little bit lower with the old school trans, anyways.
well, the thing is, I think the reason why they went back to it is because if like you're familiar with like all the RTRs now have that style transmission, is
Yeah.
because it's a little more user friendly in my opinion. It's a lot less moving parts, so
Hmm.
I think it's easier for somebody like, oh, they can understand it and whatnot. Whereas the kit transmission, you basically have the transmission, then it drops to a transfer case, but it's all still connected, so it's kind of like you know a few more gears and all that. And plus, I think they had the tolerance issue. I know a lot of like I don't know if you had this
Hmm.
issue. I know in mine I had to take a O ring and put it on the one center shaft, and it took up a lot of the slop, and then I wasn't getting that grinding issue anymore.
Yeah, that and the kit trans is kind of noisy too. I've noticed. I don't know. I like having a nice quiet rig, especially like with comp stuff, because I don't like a lot of mechanical noise coming from them or anything like that. So that's one of the reasons I'm a fan of the 3 gear. Just in addition to the, I don't know what I feel it's got a little more lower center of gravity than the kit trans, but
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on with that because like thinking about it because I just ran the black JK last weekend. There's a couple areas yeah where it's a little floppy, but I think it also doesn't help with. Are you still running the kit shocks on any of your builds?
oh yeah, quite a few of them. Yeah, I've
Okay,
got
because
Proline shocks on like 3 of them, but the other ones just have the stock axials for the time being.
yeah, because that one I left the kit shocks, which are the aluminum icon looking ones.
Hmm.
Um, the springs are just so soft that you have to really crank up the preload to
Mm.
like even get them to kind of like work, or at least the way I have it set up to get it to kind of work at all. But it's actually funny because I've ridden in a lot of lifted Jeeps and the suspension is always just like a sponge. It's just like soft and all over the place. So it's kind of funny when you watch that thing work, it kind of bounces around like a real Jeep does because it's just kind of like loose and all over the place. So it's kind of funny.
Yep, I love that. Like that's one of the coolest things that there is with having a heavy rig like that, is just watching that body roll and having it kind of sway around on the trail. And I actually like, it makes it fun to watch those rigs drive when they're like that, because it does look a lot more realistic once you get some weight behind them and they start flopping around like that. It just, I don't know, it just adds to the experience. It looks cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. And then another thing, because I know you have the two of them on your bench. I would like to get into a short wheelbase rig. I think that Leaf Sprung one is close to one of my shortest wheelbases. I want to say that's right around 11 and a half, I want to say, which would
Yep.
probably be the shortest one I have. Everything I have is either stock or extended, to fit whatever body or whatever it is I'm trying to do.
I tried to shorten a SCX once for a D90 build, and it wasn't super hard, but at the same time, it was kind of an ordeal, and trying to get the drive shafts close, small enough, and then still trying to get the pinion angle when you have such short little drive shafts, like trying to remove pinion angle from it, like it was a lot of work. So I don't know that the Associate was a pretty easy one for the most part. You just swap some links around and you make the two rear lowers yourself, and you're pretty much good to go after that. So it's not too much of a struggle, at least.
Now, I know how I make my custom links because I know you just said that you had to make, your own links for the rear. What is your method of making links?
Well, it depends on what I'm building. I've gone the all thread and sleeve it with either aluminum tubing or brake line. I've gone that route. That's probably the easiest. I've tried doing steel ones and using a die on them, and that is a pretty long process. I didn't care too much for that. On my comp rigs, I've been making them out of brass. That's been the easiest thing lately. So I just run it down with a die, and then use the next size smaller so that it's at 4 millimeters, so that it'll fit like the Traxxas or the axial rod ends, and ready to go. So my preferred way is brass, and I know everybody's like, oh, you're gonna bend them, but I don't beat on my stuff, for one, and then two, I mean it I don't care if you can see that they're brass. It doesn't really matter. The series that we do up here is pretty much just based on driver skill anyways. We don't do scale points at all, so I don't care too much about that. It's just more kind of a performance and ease of building type of thing, because I don't always have a lot of time with work and everything. So when I do build stuff, I usually have to blow through it kind of quick, so I tend to look for the easiest way of doing it.
Oh, okay. Nice. I mean, like, yeah, because I I use the method that I think you don't like, the actual out of steel.
Mm-hmm.
I typically use 3/16 solid rod, and then I tap it with, I think it's a 1024 or 1032nd. I'd have to look. It's always one of those things I can never remember what it actually is
I
until I
know.
look. Because I have one tap set up just for that. So it's like I have to like look at it and go, okay, what is it? But that's the one that I use. And if you take the same excuse me, it's a die. So if you use that die to thread the end of it, then I can take the actual matching tap and I can put it in in like a Traxxas Revo rod end, or a Jado rod end, and you kind of pre-thread it, and the thing just goes right on like butter.
Oh, nice. I never thought about doing it that way with pre-threading the ends.
Yep. Because if you don't, you can still do it, but then you need to like either use a tool to help put the rod end on, because it's just really hard to twist it on there. I mean, it'll cut it into
Oh,
it,
yeah.
but the Traxxas was, I think, was originally designed to go on like a 4 millimeter, and the fact that it's it's not exactly 4 millimeters, it's like slightly larger. It just makes it easier if you already pre-thread it.
Yeah, no, I like that. I'm gonna have to try that next time. Then that'd work really good. That and the other thing that I need to do, I need to pick up one of I think it's BPC makes it. It's the tool for building links, so you can get them all the same.
Yes. So I have one of those. It's I think they call it the Link Master, or
Yeah.
Master Link, or
Yep.
something like that.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
have
right.
one. Yeah, I have one. It's pretty cool. You could set your, kind of like pick how long it needs to be, and you can kind of like bolt a rod end, or just set a bolt in each one, and then you can measure the distance, cut it down, and like you said, you can get everything down to the same size. And I think another one, I know it's a lot pricier. If you get the Northwest Scale Designs has that whole chassis
Oh, the
fab
jig.
table, the jig.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
thing's awesome.
yeah. You can also use that too, but I know that's pricey. Because I was looking at one, but then I said, oh, a little too rich for my blood.
Yeah, if I could do it, I would probably have one. I mean, I granted I don't do that many like custom length builds, but I am kind of starting to get into some uncharted area with the stuff I'm doing. So something like that would be really cool. I've got a buddy up here that is new to the Scale RC scene in our club, and he and I were talking the other day, and I think we're gonna go halves on the tubing bender because that thing,
That's the one thing I would like out of that is the tubing bender. The
isn't that
tubing
thing sick?
the tubing bender is definitely something because right now, I started out when I first started fabbing all my own stuff. It was the old school method: stick it in the vise, mark it where you need it to be, stick it in the vise, bend it, and then look at it. Oh wait. Okay, nope, got to go a little more, bend it a little more. And then
Yep.
which takes a little longer, and you don't get the nicest bends because it's going to be more of like a 90 degree instead of like a radius bend. So that was how
Yeah.
I started. Now I use a brake tube bender. It's a 3/16 die brake tube bender, and I use
Mm-hmm.
that. It gives you your radius, but there is a learning curve to that. You have to learn how much you lose when you and like where the bend starts and stuff. So that way, like if you're trying to make like a precision bend somewhere, you can kind of measure it out and say, okay, I need to start the bend right here, so that way once it starts the bend it'll get around the body or it'll get around the fender, or if you're doing like a cage it'll start the downward movement right where you want it to be. That's the only learning, but at the end I kind of like it better because it gives it that more realistic like one-to-one look, because all
Mm-hmm.
one-to-one has a nice radius bend. So if you're trying to go for that look, that's where the tube benders or the brake tube benders work. And for the $35 I think I spent on that brake tube bender, I'm pretty happy with the results.
Yeah, I think I got mine from Harbor Freight, and it's the same type of thing, like a brake line bender, and it's worked pretty good. That I think one of the reasons I want that tubing bender from NWSD so bad is the fact that it does both sides at once. So it's
Yes.
super easy to get like two matching sides when you're building something. So I could see that kind of speeding the process up quite a bit. So that's kind of one of the reasons that I'm sold on getting that thing.
Yeah, that's definitely one other area that would help too, because my brake tube bender actually has like a little like mark, so like you can actually like if you're like, oh, I'm gonna make this one to a 45 degree or a 90 degree bend or whatever, you can do that. But the Northwest Scalar, is it design or fab?
I think it's design. I think it's Northwest Scalar
Northwest Scale
Design.
Design, their bender actually is like a real tube bender. It's got all the little increments. So like if you were like, okay, I just need to make a 5 degree bend here, you can actually get it down to like a 5 degree bend. Whereas I couldn't do that with mine. Mine's like either if it's going to be somewhere in between, you just gotta kind of remember eyeball it. Okay, I pulled it right there in between the 45 and 90, so now I got to bring the next one in between that to get the same thing. But
Yep,
yeah,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
I guess
I
I guess
really
you
think that's a. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just say I guess you definitely get your money's worth if that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, that I think that's where I struggled with the most was the fact that like with the tubing bender, the brake line tubing bender that I have right now, you're pretty much limited to how that thing comes as far as the radius of the corner. So I do find myself like bending a little with that and then going over to the vise and kind of tweaking it until I get it just right. If I want to try and tighten up one of the bends in it and make it a little bit more, like for example on the Samurai, I wanted the back bumper to like hug the two rear quarter panels of it, and wrap around it. So
Yeah.
that took a little coaxing with a vise and bending it, but it's still even with a cheap Harbor Freight tool like that, it's still better than trying to do it without anything. So
Oh yeah,
those
yeah. That's good. I was gonna say that was you were leading me right into my next problem is getting any kind of a complex bend. Like you have to bend one way, then then immediately bend it the other way.
Yeah.
Those ones I still have a hard time because with like the cheap brake bender or brake tube bender, you can't ever get it to the handle's in the way. So you're never going to get it perfectly like I guess parallel, I guess is the way.
Yeah.
Like so you're never going to get it. So you almost have to like force the bend and then tweak it back and straighten it out. It's yeah, it's a mess.
Yeah, not the easiest thing. So, yeah, no, I mean,
But
that's what I would suggest people do if they're looking, if they're wanting to kind of start building some stuff and try some new things and whatnot. I would absolutely recommend like going halves with a buddy on one of those tubing benders because then you're into it. I think less than $100 a person. It'd definitely pay for itself in the first couple of jobs that you do with it. So I don't know
well yeah,
that's on the wish list.
even if you weren't doing it like as you said as jobs, if you were just doing it for yourself because I don't know
Hmm.
about you, I've gotten hit up a couple times like, "Hey, can you build this?" or "Oh, that's awesome." And it's like it's a lot of work to build some of this stuff, you know.
Hmm.
There's hours and not only that, you don't always get it right the first time. I have a whole I don't save it as much anymore because I used to tell myself, "Oh, it's a screwed up piece of tube or a rod. I'm going to throw it in this bucket and if I ever need a little piece, I can grab it." And I started learning that I never went back and grabbed any of it. I always just started with a fresh piece. So
Oh, really?
I don't hold on to it as much anymore. But there was a time where I had like a bucket of like messed up parts because you're like, yeah, that bend's just not right, and it bugs you. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of OCD when it comes to that, so I end up cutting it off and throwing it out.
Yeah, God, that part's tough. I do way more grinding than I do welding, so I'm learning though. It's getting there.
Yeah, the welding, that's another thing too. When I first got into this, I always envied the people um, that were doing the welding because, like I said, 2011 is I think 2011 2012 is when I really started going to events and all that stuff. And back then, it was a lot of everybody would just whatever was bolt on, they just bolted on. So you'd start getting everybody looking the same. So there was a few people starting to like weld their own stuff up and be thinking outside the box. And I used to always say, "Man, I wish I could do that. I wish I could do that." And then one day, a buddy of mine was moving, couldn't take his welder with him, said, "It's up for sale. If you know anybody." And I said, "Hey, how much? I'll buy it." And I knew absolutely nothing other than the fact that, you had to have gas and it needed to be grounded. That's about it. And once you play around with it enough, you get pretty good at it. And then, or decent enough to where you feel confident that, yeah, it works for an RC car. I wouldn't put my life on it, but it works for an RC car.
Yeah, exactly. I've had some people ask if I'd make something for them. I'm like, not yet. Like honestly, let me get a couple years under my belt before I start tackling something for somebody else. In the meantime, I'll just do my own stuff and do it for my own personal enjoyment and kind of leave it there. So.
Well, I was going to say that's actually kind of like leading it into, I guess, another segment that we want to talk about the who's doing it right. I have to say, Nick Lapp, aka Bay Area Scalers, um, he's now, is he 17? No. No, he's 16.
Wow.
16 years old, and he just decided he wanted to learn how to weld one day, and he went out in the garage, used his dad's welder, and just started messing around. And now he's already selling bumpers and cages, or I don't know about cages, but I know truggies and sliders, and he's already selling stuff. And I think he's been welding for like 4 or 5 months now.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that's crazy that like you don't really see a lot of that, especially from young kids, like being interested in, I mean, for most kids, it's Xbox and gaming and playing Fortnite, and here you got a 16-year-old kid that's cutting up metal and welding stuff and actually working on honing a skill that he can use in the real world, which is really cool. So no, that kid totally impresses me, and he's a nice young man. He presents himself really well on Instagram and his social media and whatnot, and he's cranking out really cool stuff. But yeah, like he is definitely like a candidate for who's doing it right. Like that kid, absolutely.
Well, it's funny because like I went over there for that giveaway build. that I did, that we presented last or 2 weekends ago, I actually asked him if he wanted to be involved, if he wanted to make some bumpers and sliders, and he said absolutely, you know. And when I went to go drop it off, I like was looking at, I'm like, dude, what's with, like, you got like these bumpers on your thing, you got this truggy half sitting up here. What's all this? Oh, this is going to this guy. These are going to this. I'm going. You're selling this stuff already? And he's
Oh,
like, oh
wow.
yeah, they hit. I'm like, wow. I said, well, that's cool. I mean, because it goes into him buying more material and, you know, getting to play around with stuff, and it helps him buy stuff for his RC cars. So not only is he learning a craft, he's taking that craft and making it work for him so he can still enjoy this hobby, you know, and he's getting out there and doing something. Like you said, he's not sitting there playing Fortnite, you know. So he's out there, you know, creating stuff, and I think it's awesome. I mean, I do know the other thing he's got too, because he does a lot of MIG welding. He wants to get a TIG welder, but he said it's a little expensive right now. But he was at a garage sale a few months ago, and somebody was selling a stick welder, and I think the guy was like, "Oh, I want like $150 for it," and Nick's like, "Oh, I only got 100." And then the guy looked at him and he said, "Is this for you?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, I want a stick welder." He goes, "You want a stick welder?" Like, you know, here's an older gentleman talking to a teenager going, like, "You want a stick welder? Like, like, are you serious?" So he's like, "I'll give it to you for the $100." So he bought a stick welder for $100, and then
Rad.
he was learning stick welding, because, like, I think that's what he wants to do. Last time I talked to him, he wants to go into the welding trade. So I totally think that's cool, and I think it's a cool story. So I definitely
Oh
think
yeah, absolutely.
that was one to mention for the Who's Doing It Right.
Yeah, definitely. And I think on the manufacturer side of it, I'm going to do kind of like a blanket statement here, I guess you could call it. But honestly, I think the manufacturers right now that are kicking out these builders kits, I think they're doing it right. You know, the price point is perfect. It's a great idea. There's a lot less waste because most people just chuck the stock tires, wheels, body. You know, so I mean, you're only basically paying for what you need, which is pretty cool. So I mean, as far as who's doing it right, yeah, you know, Traxxas, HPI, Axial, Red Cat now they've got theirs. Awesome to
Oh yeah, that's
offer
right.
these just kind of bare bones platforms that you can just take and build into what you want rather than paying for stuff you don't need. So I
Yeah,
think that's pretty cool.
yeah, and you nailed it on the head with that, because I remember that actually, you know, kind of brings me back a little bit. Like, before the SCX 10-2 came out, I actually only bought two. Yeah, I only bought two actual axial rigs, but prior to that, everything was, I'm not kidding, scratch built. Like,
Oh
I would
wow.
go out, I'd buy the chassis rails. Well, because exactly like what you said, I go, why am I going to buy a honcho that I'm not going to use the plastic links? I have to, you know, and also, mind you, back then the battery wasn't in the optimal location, so you had to move everything around. So it's like I wasn't even going to be using their batteries tray. I was going to use like a BPC battery tray or something that pushes it forward. Um,
Right.
I wanted a chassis mounted servo, so you'd end up using something like, which I don't even know if you know this company, Hand Brothers. Um, they were like one of the
I am
first
not
people.
familiar with them.
Yeah, they were one of the first companies to come out with chassis mounted um, servo brackets, and then after that, they kind of went on a hiatus, and then Vanquish happened to just jump in right after that, and they came up with their setup, which like turned into the go-to just because it was super simple, bolted up, everything kind of worked, and the geometry was nice. Um, but that's how it used to be. We used to actually have to build our rigs into something that works really well. Now you can buy, like you said, a builder's kit, or even the RTRs, and they're kind of like ready to go out of the box. So you're not really
There's
wait.
kind of yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like honestly with those things, like the RTRs now are probably the most capable that they've ever been. Like before it was like, oh, you know, build my rig and, you know, do a kit or scratch build, which I've had to do that too, you know, just buying the pieces to make a truck out of nothing. But no, I think that I don't know. We're living in kind of a cool time right now because really, like, there's so many different rigs to choose from. You've got all kinds of different RTRs if you're not super savvy on building stuff. And honestly, I think the diehard guys like to build stuff, but really the majority of the enthusiasts in scale RC seems to be guys buying RTRs like for the family and stuff. And
Oh yeah.
there's been a few times we had a deadbolt. It was a first gen deadbolt, and I mean, I had like built rigs, and I would take this deadbolt out with plastic links, and the thing was an absolute kick. Like, it was so much fun to drive, and it worked really good. And it kind of made me start to think. I was like, I almost wonder sometimes if we maybe take this stuff a little too far and go backwards with everything you're doing to it, because they do work so well right out of the box, especially the SCX-10-2 platforms. Like that CRC Jeep, the the red 2017 JK, that thing is probably, in my opinion, one of the best RTRs that have ever come out. It's got decent tires, the wheels look nice. Yeah, it's got steel links, but who cares? I mean, you can put aluminum ones on it for cheap enough if you'd like to, from like STRC, or go like the Incision route with their stainless ones, which are awesome. But I mean, that thing is still proved to be just such a capable rig, and it's just a box stock RTR, and it just mobs up stuff, and that they're actually pretty fun. So it seems like sometimes you can fix them up to the point of where they are broken, and start going the opposite direction, because once in a while a stock rig may surprise you. They're kind of fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can agree with that 110%. Because, like I said, with with the SCX-10-2 platform, that was like the first time I actually went back to buying rigs. Like, because before it was like, okay, I'd buy like I said, I'd buy a transmission set, frame rails. Then you'd buy axles, like you'd buy everything like a la carte, and then you'd have to like build it all. Now you're getting everything. Like I have my SCX-10-2 deadbolt. I've done nothing to that thing. It's still running the plastic links, and the only thing I've done to it other than the wrap is wheels and tires. Just because I wanted to put a different set of wheels and tires on it, and that thing goes almost anywhere, and that's just like, it's just amazing because you're like, I didn't have to do anything to this rig.
It's kind of fun. Like, even like if you're running a stock servo and stuff, still like it's kind of fun and a little challenge in a way, because they don't, obviously it doesn't have the torque that a nice aftermarket servo does, but it's kind of fun to see how long you can make like one of the Tactic servos last before it finally gives up the ghost and strips out like the one plastic gear that's in the thing. But I mean, hell, I ran that Tactic servo in that deadbolt for I don't know how long, and it lasted for the duration of me driving it, and ended up, just took it and made a servo winch out of it. So it's kind of funny, people are always bitching about, oh, it comes with a crappy servo for this kind of money. It should have a high volt, high torque, like you hear it all. Like, people are never happy when it comes to stuff like that. But I mean, it's like, dude, worst case scenario, make lemonade out of lemons and take that, stock steering servo and turn it into a chassis mounted, turn it into a servo winch, and you're good to go.
Yeah, and the other thing too is there was actually that funny thing that was going on, because actually that yellow Blazer used to be my honcho, so it was a bone stock honcho, and I decided to turn it into that semi-built Blazer. And I remember blindly ordering some gears for the transmission, because I was like, okay, well, if I'm gonna build this rig while I have it all apart, I might as well put better gears in the transmission. And I opened up that transmission, and it already had steel gears, and I'm like, huh? Like, I said, this is
That's
an
rad.
I was like, this is an RTR. Well, there was, I guess, rumor has it that there was a time where I guess they were short on the internals for the transmissions, so they started just taking the ones that they'd put in the more expensive RTRs, like your CRC Jeep, or like the Blazer, and they started putting them in the honchos and even in some of the deadbolts. So like some of the people got like a good surprise when they opened them up and they saw that it was steel in there already.
That's awesome. I heard rumors about that, but it's something that I like kind of just saw and was like, oh, that's cool, and then never really heard anything else about it. But that's awesome to know that was true, that there actually, some people did end up getting some rigs with metal gears in it, which is nice.
Yeah, that, like I said, it shocked me. So I said, all right, well, I guess these gears are going in the spare parts bin because they're all built.
I've given so many of the stock gears away to people. Like I usually keep some in my backpack or in my toolbox and stuff. And like there was a guy who had a Red Cat Gen 7 Everest one day, and he had roached out his training gears, and so I gave him some axial ones, and sure enough, they fit right into the Red Cat trans. So that was cool. Just I don't know, stuff like that. I always kind of hang on to because you never know if you're gonna have a buddy or somebody that could use it when you're out and about. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, this kind of takes us into news, I think, here. And for those of you that are just joining us, basically what we're trying to do with this podcast is the first segment here was kind of a get to know you to give you guys a little bit of background information from us. At some point, we're going to be wanting to do interviews with different people, industry people, hobbyists that are well known, that are considered to be excellent builders, and do some interviews and ask them those questions and give the public a chance to get to know some of the some of the personalities in our hobby. So that's something that we want to do. So we'll on probably maybe once a month or so find somebody to interview, and then we'll move into like a what's on the bench if we have something that's going on, that we're building that, is interesting, or some stuff that we've come across working on things. Then we'll do a news segment talking about new products and stuff that's coming out. And then what we want to do is try and close each show with announcing events. You guys can email us, or I guess it'd be message us on Facebook, or you can take and comment whenever we post up something about we want to hear from you. If you do have an event or anything like that coming up that your club's putting on, let us know about it, and we'd be happy to put that on the air and try and spread the news around so that you guys can get some more people showing up. So that's kind of the plan that we're going with here.
Yeah, and that's one thing we failed miserably to mention. You can find us on Facebook under That Scale RC Show.
Ah, yes, that very important.
I'm sitting here going, we never mentioned that.
Yeah, oops. Yeah, so yeah, just at That Scale RC Show, not The Scale RC Show, but Scale RC Show. So news, probably the biggest news right now, and you're in tune with this a little bit more than I am because I'm not going to be attending this year. But I think the biggest thing in the news right now, Axial Fest 2019.
Yes. So if you're not aware, they have changed the date from, it was like the last weekend of June, and it's now July 23rd to the 27th. On top of opening or pushing the date back, they have opened up registration. So if you would like to register, you can go on their Facebook page. It'll take you right to the, I think it's Eventbrite site, and you can get your tickets. They're kind of doing a couple cool things because I kind of looked at it a little bit this year just to see what was different, because the other big news with the fact that not only with the time change, or I guess when it's going to happen change, some people should know, might not know by now, it's not at Cisco Grove this year. It's going to be at Donner. So it's actually going to be at the ski resort. And so it's going to be a little different. That's where it used to be way back before it was even called Axial Fest. I know a couple people that have been to that when it was Axial West Coast Champions. Then it turned into Axial Fest. Then they moved it, and then it got bigger and bigger and bigger. It is what it is now. But I noticed on their tickets, this year they're doing a spectator ticket. So like if you plan on going but you don't plan on running your rigs, you can get a discounted spectator ticket. And they're actually doing 2-day passes this year, because I think they have a feeling that a lot of people are only going to show up for like Friday, Saturday, or Wednesday, Thursday, or whatever the 2 days is, that because I think that's how they're doing it, because I was reading it doesn't limit you to what 2 days, but it's a 2-day pass, so you don't have to pay the full, I think it's like $60-$70, so you don't have to pay the full $70 to get in. You could pay the $40 and you're only there for 2 days. So,
Right. Which
um,
honestly, the $60 for the ticket, that's a smoking deal, anyways. Because the stuff that you get in the driver's bag is, I mean, you get that back and then some in between. The gift certificates and the discount codes and the free like goodies and stuff that people
oh
throw in
yeah,
there. So I mean, you
and
make that back really easy.
yeah, and especially when you pre-register because, like you said, you get the swag bag, which I think you've already said. You get your T-shirt. I think now they started doing, or have they always done hats? I think they've always done hats because if I remember correctly, I
Yeah.
think I have a handful of them. Sometimes you get the limited edition patches that you can only get when you pre-register, and I think a lot of the vendors, because you would know this because you were a vendor for 2 years. You get a, I think you have to put something from your company in there. So when they have like something like what, like 20 to 30 different vendors, they all have to put something in the bag if I'm not mistaken. So that's a lot of product that you get in the bag.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, it works out really good. And actually, what I'm going to bring this up before I forget about it. One thing I did want to mention with this date change, go easy on the Axial group, guys. Just kind of take it easy on them. The people that are trying to make this happen. I realize the date change isn't ideal because people have flights and reservations and whatnot, but it's not Horizon's fault, and I can't stress that enough. Donner is, since they have record snowfall, they're going to stay open. It's more skiing, more revenue for them.
Yep.
Totally makes sense. I get it. Axial didn't cause a massive amount of snow this year, which forced it to be moved back. Even if Donner was going to close so that Axial Fest could happen on the original date, what are you going to do? Drive in 3 feet of snow or whatever they've got up there at that time. So I mean, go easy on them. Yes, it's inconvenient. Is it ideal? No, but they're trying. They're trying to do the best with what they've got to work with, and Horizon very easily could have just thrown in the towel when they had purchased Axial and been like, this is something that, there's a lot of logistics behind, and we don't really feel like paying the manpower or having people, devoting money to go towards this event. So, that didn't need to happen. So
Yeah, and
try and keep that in mind. This is still something they're doing for everybody, and they're trying to keep a tradition, going. So,
and you
cut them a
nail
little
and
slack and
yeah, and you nailed it. And like the way you're saying is awesome because like the other thing I guess we should have backed up a little farther and mentioned too is the reason why it's at Donner is because Cisco Grove, the home of Axial Fest for the past like 6 years, is under construction due to new management. So with that being closed, like Jay said, they could have just said, you know what, they're closed. We can't find another place that's adequate enough. We're just gonna not even have an event this year. But instead, they're trying to do what they can with what they got. Um, the whole saying, making lemonade out of lemons, and go with it. That's really all you can do. So
yeah, just everybody be cool and let them do their thing and create some fun for everybody, and try not to take it too serious.
and
So
it's
I
and
mean,
it's always going to be what you make it. I mean, you can go to any event. It doesn't have to be Axial Fest. You can go to your local comp or your local get together, and if you go there with a crappy attitude and expect a horrible time, you're probably going to have a horrible time.
exactly. Yeah, no,
So
you're exactly right. And honestly, my personal feelings is Axial Fest is kind of one of the most fun things you can do with an RC car. It's you're going to have memories that last a lifetime from that event. I mean, it really is like Scale RC Disneyland. I highly recommend that everybody go at least once and check it out because it is it's an event. I mean, they do it right, and it's exciting. You're never going to see anything quite like it. So,
well, for me, the
it's
thing that's
worth
going to
checking out.
yeah, and for me, the thing that's gonna be interesting is the fact that it's at Donner. I've never scaled at Donner, um,
Oh,
surprisingly. So that'll be kind of cool. So
yeah,
and
definitely.
the only other fun fact about that is, I guess, not that it's a RC event. If you're close to the area, the weekend before Axial Fest is the actual We Rock Championship at Donner. So if you want to see
Oh,
some one to
wow.
ones, yeah. So if you want to see some one to ones throwing down, you can check that out the weekend before.
I would absolutely recommend doing that. I was fortunate enough to get to drive. I can't remember if they were calling it Penny at the time. I don't think so. I think this was just the old LaserNet moon buggy. But
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, those things are just. They shouldn't be able to do what they do. It is absolutely mind blowing. So if you can't catch that event in person, be sure to check it out on We Rock Live's website, and I think they also have like a YouTube channel that you can check out the rounds on too. Because it's pretty mind blowing what those cars are capable of, and the amount of talent the drivers have. It's worth checking out for sure.
Oh yeah, and I definitely am a little jealous that you got to drive that year. I totally forgot about that. That he was letting everybody, not everybody, but he was letting a select few test drive it, and yeah, they look like a lot of fun. That is actually on my bucket list. I would like to build a scale moon buggy. I just have never gotten around to actually figuring it all out because just like the real thing, a lot of geometry is involved. So
Oh yeah,
ask the master. Kyle Listle at UC Fab, he's
yeah.
building that replica right now, and he even said some of his replicas, that's all they are is a replica. They don't even run because the geometry is just wrong. Like if you wanted to
Oh
make it
wow.
work, you'd have to change it, but it wouldn't look like the real thing, but it would actually work. So
Right.
so it's definitely that's definitely on my bucket list. I'd love to build one.
That'd be a fun build. I've thought about that. Like I think wheels and tires to, because those things have like, I think 20s or 22s on them.
Uh huh.
I think what would be cool is take a set of 2.2s and wrap some like 1.9 BFG crawlers around them. And originally, when I wanted to do a moon buggy, I wanted to use that Team Associated CR12. That was originally what the purpose was going to be for that thing. Once I got it, I started looking at it and just some of the oddball hardware size and like the rod ends and stuff. It's not real conducive to putting regular 1/10 scale stuff on. It's going to take probably a lot more work than people are willing to do. One of the reasons it caught my attention though is, I mean, it was a cool rig because it has, like a full size servo in it instead of a micro one, like what most smaller scale rigs have. So that was kind of a cool thing. But I wanted to use that rig because of the fact that the axles are narrow. I
Oh
want,
yeah.
when I do build one, I want it to look somewhat, proportionate in scale to, sitting next to an SCX10 in a picture. I want it to look right. So I think probably when I do finally pull the trigger on that and build one, again, that Northwest Scalar Designs, they have a really awesome set of side plates that you can build a tube chassis out of that basically just gives you a nice, good, solid mounting point for your tubing and then a place to bolt your skid and your links to. So I'd probably start with that and then run some of the Beef Tube's narrowed AR44s. I think those narrowed ones would be really cool and would kind of help with the scale look of it. But that's kind of my plan. So I think when I do finally end up building one, it most likely is going to be SCX10 based, just because I can get those narrowed axles from Beef Tubes. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the plan.
you know, this is really bad. That that just jogged my memory. That's a whole nother build I have under the bench. I
Oh,
have
really?
my I have my UC Fab. I guess you can call it a Wraith drop in. That's sitting in pieces, like collecting pieces. That's a whole nother build I totally forgot about until you mentioned the moon buggy thing, and I'm like, going, wait a second, I have a buggy. I just it's just in pieces.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Those are awesome chassis. He does some amazing work. Just
Yeah.
all kinds of talent there. Especially after trying to make just some basic items, you definitely gain an appreciation for the guys that are awesome and can make it happen. So it's
Oh yeah.
the guys cranking out chassis like that. It's way harder than it looks, and
Oh yeah.
guys like Kyle are kind of a next level of talent when it comes to fab and stuff like that. So
Oh
the
totally.
the stuff may be expensive, but it's 100% worth it because you get something that's just flawless. It's
Oh yeah.
awesome. So.
Yeah. Totally.
Oh, let's see. More news. We got MST coming out with the CFXW. I think the big selling point for that, though, it's going to be kit and RTR. It has portals. I think everybody's going a little portal crazy, and they do kind of have their place, I think. It's cool that the MST comes with them, but I think what a lot of people are going to be doing is buying it for the JK8 styled body. It is really, really close to looking like a real one. I know the grill's different. I guess we'll see if you're able to put like a Night Customs grill in it, if that hood width is going to be relatively the same as the axial bodies are. But I wouldn't be surprised to see James coming out with some parts for that to make it a little more Jeepish. But for the most part, though, they really nailed it with that body. It looks nice. So I think that's going to be a hot seller, and it's priced competitively with the other RTRs that are out there too. So that's a good one.
Yeah, my only thing about the whole portal craze right now, and I know I'll probably get a lot of flack for this, I'm just not a fan of the portals. Like, that's honestly what's turned me off on a couple other rigs, is just like, really? Can you, could that be like an option part where, like, okay, maybe you bolt these on? Because a lot of the guy, like, if you actually look at a lot of these axles, like, even like Vanquish's portals, there really isn't much difference in the actual axle construction. It's just the ends of them where they change to have the drop down and all this. To me, it's like, I understand the place of portals, like when you want that extra ground clearance when you're keeping the rig, low. But it's like, I don't know. Maybe this is just my inner scaler, you know, saying this, but 95% of the rigs I've ever seen on trail, you go to Rubicon, you go to Fordyce, you see what these people are running. They're running normal axles. They're not running portals. It's
Yeah, you don't see portals a lot in the real world. It's
in,
usually moon buggy type things.
it's either a moon buggy, like you said, or like a military vehicle. Like you see any of
Right.
those military style vehicles, they're the ones running portals. So it's just like, I don't know. To me, that's my only nitpicky part about it. Like, it'd be kind of cool if some of these companies could actually offer, maybe, like I said, it's just like a knuckle option. Maybe like these ones bolt on and it gives you the portal option, or not. Or maybe I'm just SOL and I have to buy normal axles and sell off the portal axles.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like portals on a class one's a good idea. Portals on a trail rig, because I mean I know there's been plenty of times where I've gotten regular axles hung up on like roots and stuff, especially when we're out doing trail runs. So I mean they have its place for that. It does raise your center of gravity a little bit, and for me, with where we crawl up here at least, um, I don't think it's a good trade off going for that extra clearance versus the lower center of gravity. I would much rather have a better handling truck with lower center of gravity than having something with portals on it. But like I said, they do have their place. It's popular. It's a selling point right now. Um, is it going to kind of peter out and die at some point? I'm not really sure. I don't know. It'll be interesting to kind of see the direction that takes. I know MST with that CFXW, their older version of that rig, it had portals on it too. So I mean that's nothing new with that particular vehicle that's coming out, but it is coming out with them at the right time. When you've got Traxxas and everybody else doing it. I think even SSD is doing portals now.
Yeah, because I was going to say, isn't it Traxxas, MST, Red Cat, Vanquish makes just the axles, but I'm talking about rigs that come with portal axles already. I think those are the main brands that are coming out with it, which makes you think, do you think Axial, because they'd probably be the last big name company, do you think do you think that would be something we'd see on an Axial rig in the future?
Oh man, I don't know. I'd like to see them kind of stand their ground and not do it, because honestly, like, I mean, we had a TRX4 here for a while, and yeah, the portals were cool. We had the Bronco one. It didn't crawl super great with what we have here, but then again, our terrain's kind of unique. I think, for a trail rig, it would be great, but it just didn't quite do what I wanted it to do. So that's kind of the reason that I'm hoping they abstain from throwing portals on anything and everything in the future.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that one. I guess with that said, if you stay on, new rig topics, if you're not aware, Axial does have the 1.9 Wraith that just came out, I think, last week.
Yes.
Which is definitely something that the more I've looked at it, the more I've wanted to buy one, which is really bad. Good for them, bad for me. Because it's like, yeah, do I need another rig? No. But do I want another rig? Yes. So it's
Yeah.
and it's like, I don't know. It's one of those, I've already have so many ideas going in my head of what I can do with that. And it's like, So I don't know.
It's so awesome. I want one so bad.
I know probably before Axial Fest I'll probably have one on my bench at some point, but we'll just see how long it takes before it shows up.
Yeah, that
And the,
thing is sweet. I don't know why anybody'd be upset about that too. Like, I mean, there's so many people that have built 1.9 Wraiths and they look awesome, they work awesome. Like, this is Axial listening to their customer base and coming
see
out with something that people want and have been asking for or have been taking upon building themselves. But man, like, it's still just got all kinds of hate from people. It's like, well, buy an old Wraith then if you don't like this one. Like, there's both floating around out there. I mean, you know, if you wanted 2.2s and AR-60s on it, buy the old one and throw the new body on it if that's what you want to do. I mean, whatever, but my God, like, quit crying about new stuff. Like, this is great. Everybody says, you know, oh, I want something new from Axial, or I want this or that, and they finally do it, and everybody's mad about it, and it makes no sense. Like, man, can't you guys just be happy that it's growing and you're getting more choices? I mean,
well, I
it's
think
cool.
if you want me to play like devil's advocate, because like I don't agree with the bitching about it, but if you want me to play devil's advocate, the only thing I can see them saying is because they probably want to see new, like, oh, we want to see new because there was that point with Axial where every time they came out with another rig, it was like another version of a Jeep. So people were kind of getting like, oh, okay, it's just gonna be another Jeep. It's just gonna be another Jeep. So it's like I can kind of
Yeah.
understand where they say, okay, it's just something else that they already have, but they made it, you know, to be something different with what they already have. So they're like recycling parts. I can understand that argument, but the fact that like you said, they're listening to what's happening, they're watching what's happening, which is another prime example with their other rig that was released about a month ago, the Yeti Junior with the Can-Am body. You know this because you were building your Razor on your original Yeti Junior, and that got me going like, oh, dude, that's so cool. I want to build one too. So I started saving up and started, getting parts, and next thing you know, Axial's like, here you go. And I'm like, well, look, I don't even have to build it now. I can just buy it
Yeah.
done.
And it's not a top heavy pig by the time you're done too. It actually will work halfway decent. So no, I
So,
think I think that's cool. I don't know. You know, just it. I don't want to like put too much focus on it, but man, like people just they complain and complain and complain. I mean, I've seen them ask for a new SCX platform, and it's like, what, that thing is not even 3 years old. I want to say now, like,
well, it's
look how
also
old the other one was.
well, the other thing too is, what's funny is it's like I wonder if it's just like people just nitpicking because of stuff happening in the hobby, like with the Horizon buyout, like if it's just something to kind of like cast a shadow or whatever. Because if you think
Yeah.
about it, and I thought about this the other day, and it's nothing against them because I really do like what they just came out with, but the
Hmm.
Traxxas Blazer body that just got released, if you think about it, it's been on the same platform since they've entered the scale scene.
Yeah, exactly. The only halfway like new thing they did was the sport version with everything stripped down,
Well, yeah, but what I'm
which
saying is like
super smart.
when they first came out with it, it was like that Defender looking body, and
Right,
then
yeah.
after that they came out with the Ford Bronco, and all it really ever is just a new body option. Now then they have the Sport, like you said, which is like the stripped down version with that weird funky looking body on it, and then now
Hmm.
they came out with the Blazer, which I'm a total bow tie guy. I love my Chevys, but you're not really getting anything different when it comes to the car. You're just getting
Right.
a different body. So it's like, but you don't see a lot of the complaining there, which is all I was trying to just say. Like, hey, if you're gonna complain about
Right,
one
that
thing,
is kind of weird.
if you're gonna complain about one thing, you might as well complain about everything.
Yeah, no, exactly. You're exactly right. No, it's a great time to be in this hobby with just
Oh
all
yeah.
these choices, and I don't know. I've never been bummed about somebody introducing something. I mean, either it's for me or it's not. I mean,
The fa-
it's pretty simple. If I like it, I'll buy it. If I don't, fine, somebody else will. But I mean, I'm not gonna like take time out of my day to raise hell on the internet and tell everybody, oh, this sucks and they should have listened to me. It's like, all right, whatever.
Oh, exactly. But that's just how it is nowadays. Everybody's that way, with everything. They just, everybody thinks they have an opinion whether it matters or doesn't matter, whether they should keep it to themselves or not keep it to themselves. That's going to be their own personal opinion. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, but like you said, great time to be in the hobby. There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Um, a lot of different brands emerging with different stuff. I mean, even Red Cat with the Gen 8, that um, that whole
The
build coming off is actually like that's catapulting them forward into another market that they were kind of lacking in. So right
mm-hmm.
now is a great time to be in the scale hobby.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, just yeah, the RTRs, the kits that they're having, the pre-assembled just bare platforms. I mean, just super super good. And this is all evidence of people actually listening to us enthusiasts and doing what we've been asking for all along, which is really cool. So I mean, it's just no hate for any of these brands that are coming
No,
out with this new stuff at all. It's
not
all
at all.
good. Well, I think
So
that's probably it for the news. We kind
well,
of touched on
actually,
everything there, or is there more?
there's one last thing. I think I wrote this down just before we decided to go on. Would be from a small company. I'm not sure everybody knows about him, but Snowmod RC. You can find him on Instagram and Facebook. He's starting this whole new I don't know if you want to call it a movement, but like he got this filament for a 3D. He's a 3D printer. I should start out by saying that. He's found some sort of like a filament that's kind of like a forgiving plastic, so it's like a rubberized plastic. So it's not like, when I say rubberized, it's not like a chunk of rubber, but it's a plastic that's got some give to it. And he's making he's calling them snowballs, but what they are, the balls that go inside your rod end. It's like axials are the nylon hard plastic, and they wear out. I mean, like, you wouldn't believe how fast they wear out, but like on my kit,
Oh yeah.
my kit Cherokee, I didn't realize how sloppy that suspension was until after I got a set of these snowballs and put them in that rig. It totally changed that rig. That rig became, it's like it tightened everything up, and it's like simple. And I'm not gonna go into how much they are because I couldn't remember. I think it's like $20 and you can do like 2 rigs, I think.
Oh
I'm not
wow.
sure. I forget, but be on the lookout. I know he's coming out with those. So that's why I felt it was kind of big news. Because in my opinion, I think it's definitely gonna change the entry level enthusiast. Because not everybody wants to go out and buy all these parts. Like, because you probably know as much as I do, like the Traxxas rod ends, the metal balls don't really wear out. So once you kind of go to
Yeah.
that level, you're kind of good. But
Mm-hmm.
if you have an RTR and you want something that's going to totally change the way it works and actually give life to your old suspension without having to buy new links and buy new rod ends, you throw these in and boom, they go. And the funniest thing is too, because I got to actually talk to Brandon at one of the events last year. This was something he's had in his mind for like the past like year and a half. He's already been running those in one of his rigs for a year, almost like every event that he's ever been to, just torture testing them to see how long until they wear out. And he said they still work like they did the day he put them on.
That's awesome. I think it's a great idea. And I mean, basically, I think to try and sum it up to, because it's one thing to see him and then it's something else to hear people talk about it. But basically, I think what he's done here is the Scale RC equivalent of urethane bushings that you would
Yes,
find on a regular automobile. It's kind of that same concept. So if that kind of helps paint a picture in people's minds, that's basically what he's doing, and it's removing all that slop. It's a super cool idea. I really hope it takes off. It's you know, hats off to Brandon for thinking outside the box and going a step further than what a lot of people normally do. I mean, it's like, oh, cool, another 3D printed gas can, great. They're everywhere. But instead he's using the resources that he has to make some functional items like that, and I think that's really cool. So
yeah,
Brandon, if you're listening, nice job, keep doing what you're doing, and I think you're on the right track there with that. That's a very cool idea.
exactly. So now I think with all that said, we are done with the news. Um,
All right. Yeah, so that brings us to our closing then, guys. And if you're listening right now, kind of bear with us. It'll take a little bit for us to find our stride here and kind of perfect things and make it a little more seamless. But basically, what we would like to do with each episode is close it out with events that are coming up. Let's get some let the world know what your club's doing, and if you're wanting to get some more people involved and do a little bit of free advertising, hit us up and we'd be happy to let you know about events that are coming up. I know our own club up here, Skagit Valley Scale Crawlers, this Saturday in Anacortes, Washington, at a park called Mount Erie. We're having our first comp of the year, and we're actually doing something a little bit different. It seemed we've kind of switched back and forth between doing Saturdays and Sundays in the past, and what we decided to do this year, we get our best turnout on Sundays, but we're going to do like a series within a series. So we're going to have a Saturday only series, and it's called the Pacific Northwest Scale RC Triple Crown. And there's 3 Saturday events spread out throughout the year, and that will be a separate but included series, if that makes sense, in what our normal comp series is. So if you win all 3 events or place, it'll be on a point system just like our other regular comps are, but you will have a chance to get series awards for that one if you're only a guy who can make it on Saturdays, and if you can do one or both, or just Sunday, we have our normal series too. So that's coming up. I guess the next big one we've got coming is Proline by the Fire on May 18th. That's probably going to be kind of the next big thing. I think they're going to probably have some pretty impressive turnout this year, so that's one to look for. Then of course Axial Fest 19 we talked about, that's going to be coming up here end of July now, so everybody don't forget about that one. And that's it that I know of that's going on in the future. Let's get your guys' events announced, or also if you've got a new product that you want to make the world aware of, hit us up and we'd be more than happy to talk about it and share it with everybody. This is all about our love for the hobby and growing this hobby and creating fun for more people. So we're not setting out to be internet personalities by doing this or anything like that. This is something that we hope will be a tool and create some dialogue. If you have any questions or anything like that we can answer on the air, and if we don't know, we can get somebody on here and interview that can answer them. So anyways, if you have any feedback, any questions, comments, whatever, be sure to hit us up, and let's create a dialogue about it.
Oh heck yeah. That's what we're all about. Get it aired out and get everybody else informed. Get them excited. We don't want everybody just kind of continuing on. We want to see what else you guys got going on. If you know anybody else who's knocking it out of the park, doing something big for the RC community, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. And, share your rides on our page too. It's always cool checking out other people's builds and looking at other people's ideas for inspiration and whatnot. So, be active on that page. What we'd like to do is grow an active listener base, and, share your, tech secrets, tricks that you've learned, as far as like how to build something, just little mods that are inexpensive and cool to do. There's a lot of different stuff that happens out there that we all do, and let's create kind of a positive forum for people to share what their interest is in the hobby, so that's something that we'd like to grow in the future.
Yeah, kind of like you said, I think you already mentioned this, maybe even have a segment where you have a question for us about something, like you're setting up something on your rig and you want you want some feedback or help on how to set it up, or and just remember, it'll be our personal preference or our personal answer, so take it with a grain of salt. But if you're asking and you want our opinion on it, we'd be more than happy to help you out.
Yeah, I'd like to think between the two of us we know a little bit at least, so hopefully maybe there's
somebody
out there that we can help. So
So yeah, basically, I think that really kind of sums it up. You have anything left that you'd like to add at all?
I think that's it. I think we'll just close it out with that. You know, we want to engage with you guys. So, like Jay said, get on our Facebook page. If you got questions, comments, concerns, you know, feel free to let us know. And we'll be here once a week to hopefully help you out.
Yeah, absolutely. Gosh, there's something else really important that I wanted to mention too. Oh, yeah. So I believe we're going to be putting this on iTunes. Is where you'll
Okay.
be able to find this podcast. Adam, you had suggested also doing it on YouTube. Is that still something you're interested in doing? Or
Yeah, I mean, like, cause I mean, I know some people they put on YouTube, and they could just put it on in the background. I know the only downfall I know some people have with YouTube, I know I have this downfall too, is like sometimes I want to listen to stuff on YouTube when I'm at work, so I'll put my headphones on, but as soon as my iPhone screen goes blank, it shuts off YouTube. So it's like
Oh,
you
yeah.
have to keep it open. So I think iTunes, Podbean, there's one other place. I don't know. I can't even think of it right now. I have it on my phone too, and that's the horrible part. It's the other service.
Well, yeah. I mean, as long as we hit like all the major ones like that, and if
Spotify.
you guys, oh yeah, there you go, Spotify, and also to the listeners out there, if there is a outlet for podcasts that you prefer that you think might be good for us as far as gaining a broader listener base, then let us know too, because this is it's kind of new territory here for both of
Oh,
us. I mean,
yes.
sure, we've done YouTube videos and Facebook live feeds and stuff, but this is kind of the first time we've ever done anything quite like this. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, or somewhere that you would like the show to be available on, be sure to let us know. But for the time being, we'll do Podbean, YouTube, and iTunes, I guess. Probably
Yeah,
be
'cause
the easiest way to find us.
Yep. So with that being said, we'll see you guys next week.